You will never eat again in just any nice restaurant. You mean that wasn't chicken? My voice trembled as I stared at the plate in front of me. The texture, it was all wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on why. I felt sick, my stomach twisting. Kemi's fade her drain of color as she reached for her glass, her fingers trembling. James, I need to show you something. It started like any other evening out in Lagos. I was attending a conference, and Kemi, a friend I had known for years, suggested we have dinner at Elomi's table, a place that everyone in the city was raving about. Elomis was known for serving exquisite, exotic meals, and people said it was one of the best dining experiences you could have in the city. The place itself was almost mystical, located on the quarter side of Victoria Island. Elomi's table was the kind of place that made you feel like you had entered a different world. The restaurant, sleek, modern design with glass walls, gave you a glimpse into a world of refinement, gold and black deco, polished floors, and waiters who moved as if they were part of the atmosphere. It was a place where the rich and powerful came to show off, and the reviews were glowing. The food was said to be unlike anything anyone had ever tasted. When we walked in, I immediately noticed how quiet it was. The murmur of conversation was soft, almost reverent, and the air smelled rich with spices and something faintly metallic. Kemi led the way with a confident smile. She had been here before. I have got a reservation for us, she said, winking. Just trust me. You will never forget this smell. The waiter greeted us immediately and ushered us to a secluded corner. The menu was more of a booklet with pages dedicated to stories about each dish, as if the food itself was steeped in legend. The first page was dedicated to a signature dish, hunter's feet, a dish that Kemi insisted I try. The flavors are out of this world, she said. You won't believe it until you taste it. They only serve it at Elomis, and it's something you can't find anywhere else. We placed our orders, and I watched as the food started arriving, beautifully presented. The colors so vibrant, they seemed almost unreal. The meat was tender and perfectly cooked. The flavors bold, deep, and almost intoxicating. I dug in eagerly, savoring every bite, feeling like I was experiencing something extraordinary. But then, as I took another bite, something strange hit me. The taste. It wasn't quite right. I couldn't place it, but it was unsettling. Kemi had already stopped eating. She pushed a plate aside, her face pale, her eyes darting nervously toward the waiter, then back to me. What's wrong? I asked. My fork froze half to my mouth. Her lips trembled. James, I didn't want to say anything, but what? Kemi, you are freaking me out. She glanced around, then lowered her voice. I think you should go to the bathroom. I will explain when you get back. I raised an eyebrow. What are you talking about? We are eating. You have been here before. What's going on? She shook her head. Please, just go. Confused but trusting her, I stood up and walked towards the washroom. But as I passed the kitchen entrance, something caught my eye. Just a glimpse of movement behind the swinging door. There were several chefs inside, but one of them was holding something that made my blood run cold. A large knife, gleaming in the deep line, was poised over what I thought was a slab of meat. But as I peered closer, I realized the shape was all wrong. It wasn't beef or goat or even pork. It was a human head. I stumbled back, nearly colliding with a server who was passing by. My heart raced. I couldn't breathe. I turned quickly, pretending I hadn't seen anything, and made my way to the restroom. I barely made it to the sink before I began to cark. That was no animal. They had been slicing human flesh. This was no ordinary fine dining experience. It was a nightmare dressed in luxury. My mind was spinning as I washed my hands, trying to calm my shaking hands. I had to get out of here. I had to tell Kemi. I didn't waste a second. I rushed back to the table, heart pounding in my chest. Kemi, I I saw something. I whispered, my voice trembling. She looked up at me, her face pale as she saw the panic in my eyes. You saw it too, didn't you? I knew that. My throat dry. Human flesh came me. They are serving people. Her face crumpled. I didn't want you to know, but I had to tell you. It's the truth. That is what Elomi is about. The hunter's feet. It's not just a dish, James. They bring in people, sometimes from the streets, sometimes from other countries. They disappear, or worse, people volunteer. It's all hidden in plain sight, and no one dares question it. The restaurant has been doing it for years. My mind whirled, the reality of it hitting me like a slap. I could hardly catch my breath. But we can't just sit here. We need to call the police. Kemi was already on her feet. No, no police. Not yet. We need to sneak out. They have eyes everywhere. We have to leave without anyone noticing. I looked around. The diners were oblivious, happily eating the same hunter's feet we had just tried, unaware of what they were consuming. The thought of it made me want to throw up. Follow me, Kemi said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. She grabbed a purse, and together we made our way to the back exit. Keeping low and moving quickly, we had to pass through the kitchen. My heart stopped as I saw the chef still working, slicing, dicing, preparing. I tried not to look at the bloody slams of flesh on the countertops. We were almost out when one of the bouncers at the door stopped us, his gaze narrowing. Leaving so soon? He asked, his voice calm, but his posture tense. I swallowed, facing a smile. Just had a long day. Needed to get some fresh air. The bouncer looked at us for a moment, but then nodded and stepped aside, allowing us to slip past him. We hurried out into the night, our breath coming in short gasps. Kemi pulled out her phone as we reached the street corner. I'm calling the police. They will shut this place down. I knew that, but a nagging thought lingered in my mind. What if they had connections? What if we were already too late? but we had to try. We had to expose them. That night, we gave our statement to the police and the investigation began. It didn't take long for authorities to uncover the horrifying truth about Elomi's table. The owners had been operating their dark, illegal business for years, abducting people, serving their flesh to unwritten dinners, and using their reputation to protect their secrets. The place was raided and its doors were permanently shut down. But the horror of what I had witnessed never left me. After that, I couldn't look at food the same way. Every meal felt like a gamble, and every time I passed by a fancy restaurant, I couldn't help but wonder what's on the menu. From that day on, I never ate at a fine dining establishment again. I couldn't shake the thought that I had once sat at a table where the food had come from the darkest corner of humanity hunger. And now I share this story because if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never have believed it. And I'm telling you, you need to know the truth. The luxury of a fine meal is often built on secrets you will never want to uncover.